Okay, so this is day 4-ish, well, meeting 4 of working on our speech device app, or our storytelling app. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So after yesterday's call, or well, not yesterday, but after Monday's call, I kind of kept working on what we had talked about, or kind of like what we had all brainstormed and worked on for the design. So for a real quick recap, um, we went through a couple of different design ideas on how this should look. And so, my original idea was sort of like having these sort of buttons that go along, and then you make so you choose your theme, and then you pick the different ones, and we go along there. And so it was something like this. And as we were kind of working on it more, we thought about, okay, like, right, like where the text needs to go. But the more that we got into it, it became apparent that it could be a lot of clicking back and forth, and also wanting the user to be able to know how they're going to be changing and what, and kind of that universal navigation of kind of this idea of that, you'll need a button for going back to the home page. And originally it was something like this, of where, you could go back to the home page, and then you choose the who, what, where, when, and why, or who, what, well, the different options for customizing the story, and then have the different options down here for selecting the actual thing. But as we were kind of working on this more, we kind of thought about, like, trying to make it as simple as possible as they're going along. And we kind of landed on this idea of kind of having 3 different sections that'll be on there. One will be the navigation bar. That's going to be for the home, where your saved stories are going to be, and then also the different themes, and then the page selection options. So that's going to be whatever section you're on, being able to choose what are the, what option you want to pick, and then also your current storyline that you're working on. And 2 parts for that: of one, just to make it easy for customizing your story as you're going along, so that you kind of like, you've got links down there for going back and forth and changing the different ones, but then also being able to see what you have for your current story, and having that as sort of like a script is similar to what AAC, or communication devices, currently have. And so I kind of kept working on that idea and put in some icons, and we kind of have this now as our prototype within Figma. And I've got it selected as it's yellow, background is yellow if that's the current one, and it goes through. And I've actually set this up as a prototype using Figma's prototype options. Real quickly too, if you haven't used Figma before, you can do some really cool stuff that make things go really fast. Like, if I've created kind of like these, you can create properties to different things. And so I've got all these buttons, and we're going to be reusing the buttons. And if let's say you want to change the look of one button, you don't want to go and change all of them, and all the buttons are sharing certain attributes. And so what I did is, you can then actually select the different ones. So if I want to change this to a where button, I can just select that there. And so it does some really cool stuff. And yeah, I'm just kind of scratching the surface of it a little bit, but it's amazing how quickly you can create reusable components that you can customize in different ways. But so with the prototyping tool, what I did there is I kind of created a story for us, or a process going through this whole thing already. And I'll share the link with everybody. So if you click on, so when you go to that link, and I'll share a link to this also, but you have these different flows. And so with this flow, this is going to be the one that we worked on Monday, that we kind of talked about. And this is also going to be using Lois's suggestion. I'm going to make this fit to the screen. This is also going to be using Lois's suggestion of, when you select a button, it should go to the next option, next step automatically. So on here, there's certain things that you can already click. If you don't know what you can click, if you click any place on there, it'll highlight in blue. So I've got this prototype setup for the fantasy story one. The saved stories would go here's kind of what I was thinking for the homepage. So you select fantasy, and now it automatically selects our first one of mood will be down here on the bottom. So that's yellow because that's the current one. And then you select one of these. I've got it just set up as funny. So you select funny, automatically takes you to the next section with it, which is who. What did I do for this one? Oh, and then this one is pirate. And then it is going to be a discovery story for the what. And another thing that's changing down here is I didn't put in icons for all of these because I just don't look for all the icons yet. But what it's also doing is it's populating that button down here. And so that discovery one automatically went down here. And so if when it has an icon, the icon will show up here too. It's requiring the user to have the kind of more cognitive load. They're going to have to kind of remember of like, oh yeah, like the pirate icon, that's the who. So if I want to change the who, I need to click on that, and then I can change who it's going to be again. But this way it shows the user what their story setup is so far, and also that it's a fantasy story. And so I think this is going to be, I think that trade-off there, I think will work. We'll test it out. Right, and then the where, I think I said the forest, right? And so then it would take you here. We've got a setup, and then we say create. And at that point, then it's going to then generate the story with OpenAI. Some of the things that we talked about in earlier ones were of having the two different volume buttons. So maybe like if you wanted to hear it read to you first before maybe everybody, you do the quiet button. So you're not messing around on your volume buttons on your device. So it's just reading it quieter so you can hear it. And then if you want to share it with everybody, then it would do the full volume of the device. And then also an option to save stories, because I think that's just gonna be a natural thing of like, if you get a story you really like cool, we'll want to go ahead and save that one. And so that's what I've got set up on here. The other update of what I've been trying to do, I posted this on LinkedIn, is, well, I'm trying to get the text to speech, because that's one of the two barriers that we have. And on Monday at our next call, we're going to be talking to Corbin, who's a Minnesota entrepreneur and developer, and he has some experience with Bubble. So he's going to kind of help us out a little bit with some of these things I'm running into, like getting image buttons to work the way we want it to. But the other part is text to speech. And Corbin's been playing around with ChatGPT a lot to have it help him code. It's kind of like a coding partner. So I thought I'll try that out too. And so Google, with their cloud services, has a really good system for making very good sounding text to speech. And so I tried that out. So I tried that out with ChatGPT. Long story short, didn't work out, but I learned a lot. There were a lot of things that it didn't get right on the first or second or third time, but it was kind of nice that it always kept coming up with more suggestions. Like on this one, it's like, right, so I needed more details, and so then it gave me more specific details. And then it was referencing a field that didn't exist in Bubble, and then it kind of gave me other things. And I was like, that other field doesn't exist. And so then it gave me more things. And we kind of kept going. And I just kept getting errors. I could not figure it out. I didn't know if it was me or if it was ChatGPT, because but I was still really impressed with how much it knew about the different systems anyways, which was great. But I just could not get it working at all. So I went through, did a whole bunch of different times, and at some point I was like, okay, this sucks. Maybe there's a different option. And I said, how else can I put in text to speech? And it gave me another option. And I thought about this before, but I decided I want to try and have something with better sounding text to speech than the more computery stuff, because there's some really good stuff now that are services that are out there that make it sound more like a real person. Kind of like Siri instead of the older robotic one. And so it kind of told me, it was like, oh, like you could set it up like this. And the code that it gave me works. It worked if I had it as its own separate page, and I tested it on my browser. That worked out great. But then once I tried going through and putting it into Bubble, like I just couldn't get it to work. And I don't know if it was Bubble. So the code works. it's just the way it told me to put it in a bubble and the way I would have thought that I would have done that, it didn't work. So I gave up on that too. I think that was last night, and then I just quit on that. So we haven't gotten text to speech working. I did find a forum post that talked about the same kind of issue where somebody's trying to figure out the same thing, and they got it working. And so I actually followed those, and well, I kind of followed along there. I got it working now within here through the plugin. I just can't get it to actually, I can't get it to hear anything. And I want to be able to have it so that it'll hear something. You don't have to download anything to the computer. So in the process of figuring that out too. And so I was kind of working on that just a little bit before now. So I think because on Monday we're going to talk to Corbin and pick his brain about some of this development stuff that I'm having trouble with for Bubble. I think we'll kind of try out this prototype on Figma and kind of see what that's like and if there's other kind of adjustments or changes that we want to do to it. It's really easy to make changes within Figma and make a different version. I'm just calling version 3.1. And we can kind of keep going along there.